Previously, on this four-part series, Alan speaks about his childhood.
So I'm a rags to riches, to rags to riches story. No, so this one there was one abuser. That by begging, borrowing, or stealing, I made money. That hotel I ended up owning, by the way. That's the one, yeah.
Was it actually a pleasant experience living on the city?
See, a lot of my drive actually is to do with people looking down upon me. I hate people looking down on others. I hated. Take this moldy book and may God be with you on Christmas. And you're going, I'm not grateful for this. Anyway, so this is where I learned the final years of how to make money and how I realized I made more money cleaning windows than I did working full time, working for a hotel. I worked 50, 60 hours a week and I used to get 40 quid a week. After he took my pay, I took the pay for keeping him in the house, so I got staff cost taken out of me for staying in the staff house. So that was when I realized I could actually make more money cleaning windows all the time. That was always in me. It was instilled in me at an early age. Even though I went and worked for someone for 3 to 6 months living in this hotel before I wanted to go to art college. No guidance on it. And sadly, I had to leave the job and I went back to go to Big Lurgan, the big smoke of Lurgan, which I thought was like a city in comparison to Irvinstown, which it was. And I arrived at the Tech wanting to do a first national diploma, just turned the age of 16, and done a year studying a first diploma in art. But at that point, I realized art wasn't for me. It's never going to make me money. I love art. I still do to this very day, as you can see by the picture behind. I'm a big art collector. I love my art. But, and can I paint? Yes, I can. Can I do oils? Yes. But it doesn't make money.
Did you complete the diploma?
I did, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
And this is a Lurgan Southern Regional College?
Lurgan, it was known as it was known as Lurgan Tech.
Lurgan
Lurgan
Tech.
Tech is what they call it. Not there was no Southern Region. And I became a student union president. I felt that I was in college, a university. I had the desire to be in university, so I wanted to make it more university. So I went to the headmaster and said, can we start a student union? This is not, you don't do this in a tech. But I formed a student union. And I got the Student Union Association of Queen's University to join in and establish affiliation to the Student Union Lurgan Tech. It only lasted for 1 year. I was voted. There was a run for president of the Student Union, and I became the Student Union president. I think it lasted for about half a year afterwards when I gave up when I finished my first diploma. Someone else took the presidency, but the union didn't last. I had negotiated a student room, a student common room. I had negotiated a pool table, arcade machines, coffee machine, vending machine. I got it all in there. And it was a great little place to hang out for me to court my women and play pool with my mates. It was great. And that was in the Lurgan Tech. And it was a guy called Dr. Lloyd. He sadly got done for fraud by the school. But Dr. Lloyd was the headmaster back then. And he was very proactive on trying to grow the education forum for Lurgan Tech. But sadly it failed, and so did he. But that was when I realized that it wasn't for me. And I needed to make more money. I needed to be more industrious. So I became an apprentice electrician. So by that time, I was living on the peace line in Lurgan because the Catholics didn't like me because I was English. And the Protestants didn't like me because I was of Catholic origin. So I had to stay on one road called 5 Tandragee Road. It was the peace line of Lurgan between the Catholics and the Protestants. And I lived there for a year, living in a top or bottom bunk of a shared room for £5 a week. And I worked in bars and I try to do some things. I ended up getting a government job, working in the government, part-time, and then doing study during the day and learning to become an electrician. I got employed by a company called Alan Little's in Lurgan, where I served my time for Ian Little and Alan Little himself. And I enjoyed it thoroughly, even though Ian Little was a complete bastard to me. A terrible boss, horrible man to apprentices. He just treated them like dirt. Treated all the journeymen really well, but treated the apprentices really badly. He used to duck money out of me, and I used to only earn £40 a week, £1 an hour as an apprentice electrician, second year. And he used to take money off me if I cut the cable too long. He used to cut the money out of me. But I learnt then at very early age how to do wire chandeliers, how to wire plugs and sockets. And I advertised in the local paper, electrician. I couldn't say that I was an apprentice electrician, but I used to say sockets from £5 each. You know, chandeliers from £5 each. And I made a lot of money from it. So I used to homer, is what you call it, doing homers. Moonlighting. But of course, you know, they wouldn't have done it for that price. They'd have probably charged 30 or 40 quid for doing something like that. But I did it for a fiver. And I used to drive round earning my fivers at night, doing chandeliers, putting central heating in, and really doing really well. I called it Deltec technology. Someone referred to it as Del Boy technology. And that was the first time I was called Del Boy, because I was a English chav, you know, I'll do it for a fiver. You know, the accent has changed as I continually lived here, purely because I didn't want to estrange myself to the local community. So I put on a Northern Irish accent, and it became habit. And now if I go to England, I've got an English accent. For 2 weeks I could come back, yeah, all right, gov. You know, but when I'm over here, it's back to Northern Ireland very quickly. So there it is.
So it seems like things are kind of looking up for you at this stage, doesn't it? Seems like a bit more positivity from the early upbringing and the now in Northern Ireland in the Sparker and the art college. Are you having a bit of a better life? A bit of better quality life?
Yes. I met a girl who later became my wife. She was very stable for me. She was a good girl. She looked after me. She housed me. I stayed in her house. You know, can you imagine how hard it was for a good Protestant family to bring in this little half-baked Fenian to, you know, because I wasn't a Catholic, but I wasn't a Protestant either. I was nothing. I had no religion. But because I went to St. Mary's Secondary School, you know, the affiliation, you had to pigeonhole yourself. And I didn't class myself as Protestant nor Catholic, but yet other people classed me as Catholic. And I never took Catholic views. I never took the Catholic religion. In fact, I scolded on the, I pushed away religion, and I hated religion because of it, but they let me into their home. And it was a good orange man. He was a Christian orangeman. Yeah, so I ended up going out Louise. I was penniless. Even when I was serving my time and working part-time in the evenings every night I could possibly get, I was still penniless. I used to drive around in a car with no insurance, no tax, no MOT. Couldn't afford it. You know, I couldn't afford insurance, and the insurance then was about 300-400 quid, but I just couldn't afford it. Because to go to work, sometimes in your own car, you had to go to jobs in your own motor. You ended up just penniless. Paying the rent. My rent was, I think it was £100 a month. At the time, it was really expensive for me because it was only 40 quid. And then I had to buy food, you know, petrol. All that stuff was expensive for me. But I never seemed to have money, no matter what I tried. I was always skint. I never had time to drink. Yes, I had the odd Chinese and went and got the odd video from Extravision. But I never spent money foolishly. I wanted clothes, you know, like any other young lad at the age of 17, 18. But no, I didn't have much money to myself. So it wasn't really good life. I was still enjoying the mental trauma of my childhood. So I was in a very horrible state of mind. If I look back at it now, I was a very angry young man. I felt that as an 18-year-old, I learned to become industrious, make money, but never had the money. I was always skint. We turned 18 and I went and got a house. I bought a council house for the grand sum of £21,000. So I wasn't rich because I had to pay a mortgage then, and an endowment policy on top. So I had to pay for a mortgage and an insurance just in case I died. I got to pay off the loan that I got from the bank. That just kept me break even. So working for someone again, I never made money. I studied a degree as well. So I went and studied an Open University degree. It was hard because I wasn't intellectual. I thought I was dumb, but I didn't want people frowning upon me. See, a lot of my drive actually is to do with people looking down upon me. I hate people looking down on others. I hated being looked down upon. I remember one Christmas. It was the Christmas that I moved into Northern Ireland. And we had the Salvation Army come to us with all these good Christian folk knock on the poor people's door to hand me presents, for Christmas. We didn't have any presents that year, but the presents we got were second-hand toys, broken, smashed. And it was not the toys that I saw, but the humbling of these people looking down upon me on their noses as the poor child. Oh, poor you, take this broken Spider-Man. Take this moldy book and may God be with you on Christmas. And you're going, I'm not grateful for this. And I just saw the humanity and the evil of religion. You're going home and tuck it into your big turkey and your beautiful brand new presents, and you're handing me your child's old toys. How dare you? How dare you patronize us with that? This is more of an semblance of how people saw poor people and how they frowned upon, we were good people. My mum, yes, made mistakes, but I was a good person. But yet that happened throughout my teenage time as well. My boss frowned upon me as the poor person. I was frowned upon as, by my girlfriend at the time, her parents, that poor child. There's only several people that found a level of respect for me as a human being and saw me not just for the money that I had or hadn't got, but actually saw me for the human that I was and I want to become. One of them was my friend, Robert Wilson, his mum and dad, and I still remember him to this day. Sadly, Robert's mum died there, and they helped me. They set me up in a home and bought me shopping, spent 80 quid on food for me, and handed me boxes of food into this house that I just moved into. They set me up and paid the rent for me until I got a job and settled myself. These are the people that I reckon, I never forget. And I will never forget Sally and the way that they treated me. So it was for that reason I wanted to be a better person. And I wanted to become a better human being for them and for myself. I wanted to be successful. And I didn't want people to frown upon me or frown upon my family if I ever had one. I will not be the scumbag they treated me as. They kept me down by their own self-judgment. We're better than them, therefore they're worse than us. Not they're poor off, let's help them. There was a level of ineptitude to understand poverty back then. I think now poverty is very different. We were truly poor. So anyway, yeah, we never had money when I was 20. Even when I became 20, I was still dealing with a lot of crap in my head. It was smoked, it was clouded, but I still worked And I worked hard, damned hard. I am used to all my life, all my teenage life, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and now my 50s, of working 16-hour days. I'm just used to it. I know nothing else. If I sit down for too long, I have to be mind zoned out in order to sit there, or else I will get up and work. So I know from that point onwards, the habit of my life was working to earn money. So when I managed to purchase the house, I felt that I was growing an asset, and I was just loosely doing my degree with the Open University, on and off. You can do that with the OU. And I left my job with Alan Little's because I was a fourth year apprentice, and Ian wouldn't give me the full rate. He wouldn't let me pass out. Got all my qualifications, got my MVQs level 3, and I was really good at sparking. I became great at automation, and the bakery, Irwin's Bakery, were looking at automation spark. I got the job with immediate effect, and I was doing PLCs, control automation, contactors, sensors, and full automation of baking bread. I was good at it, really good at it. And then I started building computers for people while I was doing that. And I was making money in the evening while I was working as a spark.
Where did the computer building come from?
So the Open University taught you how to build computers. And there was this guy called Conrad who worked in the bakery too, and he loved computers. And Conrad and I started building computers. And then I went and bought my first computer from a place called Plantation Computers. And they were like, Alan, can you sell? I says, Christ, I can sell. So I started selling for Plantation Computers.
What kind of price were computers going for?
Oh, they were about $4.5 grand, $5 grand. Yeah. And I went, I can do this. I can build these computers. So I did. And I went out with this guy who was building the computers for these guys. And I said, I'm going to do this. You want to join me? You're a builder. I'm the sales guy. And of course, what happened? I was selling them, and the builder decided, I don't want to be part of this business. It's too hard work. I'm doing 20 hours a week. It was my money. I put the money up to buy the stock, but it was him putting the time in, and that was his partnership. So it ended up that I was building the PCs, selling the PCs, programming the PCs, and I was doing them from the back of my council house that I bought in a little side thing in the back of the council house. And I called it Extreme PC, Extreme Computers.
So this is fully your business now? You're not doing this
So I bought him out. I paid him. We looked at the value of the stock. I said, listen, I'll buy. It was me who earned it. It was my money. But I just pay him 50%. And I think I gave him $1 grand. And I bought him out of Extreme PC. But by that time, the money that I was making, I was doing, 3 computers a month. And that was 12 grand.
What year are we on here roughly?
So that would have been 21. I was 21.
So what kind of way was advertising, etc., working for like a business?
In the paper.
Just all paper?
In the paper.
Against the walls and stuff kind of scenario?
No, you put it in the classifieds ads, computers for sale. Yeah, in the paper. That's how everyone, I need a computer. I'm going to have to look in the computer places. And that's how I got engineering companies to come to me and ask me for an accounting package. And I had to learn how to program accounting packages.
Did this company like expand? Did you bring in more staff? Was it always just you?
It was me up to the point of when I got commercial premises. So I got a place above a chip shop in Moira, and I slept there, even though I had a fiance who was the girlfriend I told you about. I was working there every night, every day, sleeping there. I actually slept there in the office floor upstairs with a heater on and kicked it over and I melted the carpet and I woke up with the thing on fire. So I could have burnt down, I killed myself through overwork, but I gladly didn't. I woke up with the smoke and it was a bit caustic and, managed to put the fire out. I worked all the days there were. The computer business itself was the maker of me. My first year was my first turnover of $1 million. But my profit margin was 0.